Hello, hello world. You shut up, monster cat. All right, let me go live on Facebook. 3, 2, 1, go live. Excellent. We are live on Facebook. We're live on everywhere else, I believe. I was tweeting it out. Did you see who I think was on the Envy podcast today?
Who?
Well, you had Hex, Jason, and Mike were all in a picture at the Envy office. I can only assume that was for the podcast. I haven't looked.
Oh. I mean, it's hard to follow us up. They probably have to bring out the big guns today.
I don't blame them. They probably like, well, there's only one thing that can top that episode. And that's every owner of every team in the Metroplex.
They're like, shit, we need to do something big right now. They made
CSGO
CSGO
2
changes.
hours. It was the latest episode is live with Nifty. Returns to discuss the new NVCS returning to IGL. Okay, so it's just Nifty today.
They wanted to bring it back. He's like, oh god, I gotta top that.
He actually called them and like, look, I will come on, please. Just don't ever put those two guys on again.
Like, you can use me every episode. Just don't do that to yourselves.
Please. Please don't. Sad day. Sad day. You know what? No one said anything bad, which is okay in my book. All right. You boys ready to knock this out?
Yep. Do it.
All right. 3, 2, 1. Nope. Wait. What? Hold up. What? All right. Ready?
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Jordan Nothing Over to Cloud9, and you're listening to TCR.
Okay, so let's start.
Hello and welcome. Welcome back to another edition of The Center Ring, aka TCR, aka your favorite esports podcast. Episode 150. Coming to you live, pre-recorded from an undisclosed location. The date, March 25th, 2019. The time, 8:45 p.m. Central Standard Time. Hello, my name is Tim. I will be one of your captains for this journey into esports. Alongside me, as always, we have Anuj. Hello, Anuj.
Hello. How are you guys doing?
Beautiful. And we have Brett. Hello, Brett.
What's up, guys?
Howdy.
Howdy.
We got Joey in the chat. What's up, Joey? For those who don't know, we are streaming. We stream every episode of The Center Ring. So you can catch that on our Twitter, @The Center Ring. That will always have all the links there. We are on Twitch, The Center Ring on Twitch. And also on Facebook, Twitter, every other platform you can possibly think of through Watch Phantom, which does Dallas sports as well, and just general sports talk. So if that's your thing, go check them out. And have fun with the boys there. If it's not, and maybe you're watching from there, and you're like, what the hell are these nerds talking about? We're talking esports. You know, that thing that was on ABC this weekend that everyone loved so much.
Everybody.
Everybody.
Nothing like a good Sunday morning of esports.
Everybody on
national
Twitter
television
just loved esports, you know. I don't know what else they wanted at 2 o'clock on a Saturday or Sunday, but hey, they got Overwatch. This is going to be the best episode ever, though. So if this is your first time listening, you're in luck because we have meta talk. We teased it last week. 2 huge patches coming into our beloved games in Overwatch. Blizzard's mixing it up. Is Goats dead? We'll discuss that. Also, CSGO had an uncharacteristic big patch, and not just like changing prices here and there. Like, it could actually mix up how you play the game, which is not in character for Valve to do with Counter-Strike. So we'll get into that in a second. Of course, we'll end the show with e-news, and of course, follow us at the Center Ring on Twitter. Let us know how you're doing. Let us know how we're doing, most importantly, because we do love you, the listener. Follow up from last week. If you haven't gone yet, go and follow Q Up on any podcast outlet. Also, Team Envy's YouTube. Nuge and I were invited onto their weekly podcast last week, so you can still check out that episode. We talked just general esports as a industry. Man, raving reviews. Raving. So
It was fun, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun.
It's
also cool to see like on YouTube and people's reaction to it, and no one has said anything bad, which is good. One person said that we looked like Guardian and Shazam. I'll take that as a compliment.
That was the best.
I'll
That was
take
the
as a
best.
compliment. But it was a lot of fun. And I'll tell you what, nothing makes me more motivated to get in shape than like seeing yourself on camera, though.
Okay, seeing yourself on that type of camera.
I've
did
never
not help.
seen myself in like that much HD.
Yeah. I could see a little bit of Guardian in Anuj. Or was it the other way around?
Bro, come on now.
I think I'm Shazam.
Yeah,
Shazam.
totally.
I mean, it's almost racist, Anuj, that you just assumed that you were Shazam.
I was going with more of an FNS style myself, but
Whoa.
No, yeah, it was a lot of fun joining their podcast. I can't wait to do it again. Hopefully, maybe we can have them on here coming up soon. Kind of share the love. It was great. I'm day 1 of my diet, though. I did start a diet based off of seeing me on camera.
what was it, like keto, or what are you doing?
You know, it's just cutting out sugar.
Atkins.
I don't really know. I don't know enough about being healthy to pretend like I know what I'm doing. It's just cutting out the obvious. I'm so tired.
Eat
weak.
less.
Yeah.
Portion
Less-
control, blah, blah,
Less
blah,
junk
blah, blah.
food, You know how it goes. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. Look, all I'm saying is maybe next time we're on there, people are like, damn, looks like Freakazoid's on.
Yeah,
Like, damn.
Freakazoid and his friend Guardian.
And his friend.
No, it was a good time. So go check that out. Queue up. If you're looking like on iTunes or Spotify, or go to Team Envy on YouTube, and they'll have it there as well. So that's always fun. But let's get into today's episode because we have a lot to discuss and not a lot of time to do so. Anuj, I want to start with Counter-Strike, and I want you to kind of lead the way. Now, this weekend, we did have the first official tournament with the update. I know WESG kind of stole that thunder as the patch happened in the semifinals and they couldn't roll back, so they had to finish the tournament with it. But that doesn't really count. We had Blast Pro Series in Sao Paulo this last weekend, and this was the first tournament with the new patch. Astralis ended up beating Liquid 2-1 in the finals. MIBR went 0-6, which is just amazing to do.
Early in a playoff stage or something, right? You're talking about a 0-5 performance, which is a historically bad performance. I mean, when it comes to just tournament play in general, like you always see an underdog pull off a win on a random map. That's what we all say about BO1s, right? Like anybody can win those. It's just get hot at the right time. Good chance you can pull off an upset on a BO1. They weren't able to do that at all. I mean, they just showed no fight. And then again, with them, we're hoping that this is more of an early like reunited process that maybe they're going to go through here. That was more than likely a lot of pressure playing in front of the home crowd, right? Like you're just going to have an added amount of pressure in that situation. So that doesn't help to go along with that. Maybe that led to somewhat of a poor performance, but they're not going to have a lot of opportunity to turn it around if they keep playing this way, right? Like you got to see
Yeah.
improvement.
Because I mean, there's been a lot of changes. I mean, the core is still there, but they swap out a player here, move Taco, Taco goes to Liquid. Then they bring that didn't really work out when they brought in, Stewie and Tarek, so they bring in Yanko. Yanko didn't really work out, so they bring back Taco. And then early, it looks like that's really not working. Are we still giving them a pass? Or is it to the point where it's like, man, is this who they are? Just super inconsistent and not really up there with the Liquids and Astralises of the world. Like there's no chance.
Well, they're definitely not up there. I mean, that's an obvious, right? They're definitely not
Well, maybe
in
like
talks
the
of top 5 even at this point,
yeah.
right?
Okay.
But for them, I think this is more every time you make a change, it kind of resets the clock a little bit, right? The problem is this is the effect of like an ongoing poor performing team. So it's an extended period of play that we're now seeing. But I do think, when you make changes, it does like it needs to reset that clock in terms of giving this particular lineup a chance and not necessarily comparing it to what the last one did. But yeah, they're definitely running out of chances. And I feel the same way for FaZe. Like, what are you gonna do? You're gonna keep swapping out the 5th player in hopes that it's going to work. Obviously, there's a bigger problem here. Um, where you look at teams like like NIP, they're a team that has a reason to struggle right now with Dennis stepping out of the lineup, bringing Draken back. Who knew where his mindset was going to be? And it's not like even they found a way to squeak out a win ultimately, right? Like they won 2 games there. One of them against FaZe and obviously the other against MIBR. So that's a team that you would think those teams would be able to take advantage of and not necessarily the other way around. Um, so yeah, I mean, it's just disappointing, and I don't know at this point. It's like you got to just hey, give them another couple tournaments. Let's see how this goes. It's gonna be a few months for MIBR at least of wait time to see where this turns out. For FaZe, I do think that clock is running a lot shorter. Like there's a lot of money that they're paying to these players on both ends. But FaZe has been performing. They were at number 2 for a long time, and since they've dropped off, they've never came back. So they're just headed in the wrong direction, is what it feels like.
You said Ents going 3-1-1. I mean, they kind of kept that major performance going over, which was nice to see. The fact that they were still performing. I mean, this, for all intents and purposes, was a legit stacked tournament, despite everything we just said about MIBR and FaZe. But going into it, it was a stacked tournament, so it was nice to
Bunch
see
of heavy
Ents.
hitters for sure.
Yeah, exactly. So it's nice to see Ents kind of keeping into that major form.
With them, it was their only loss came to Astralis on a 16-14 match where they really had an opportunity to win that, and their tie, which is we kind of I think we should talk about this for a second here. This was the most brutal part. Is the tie was in the decider match essentially versus Liquid. I think like the differentiating thing is like round differential is what it goes off of at that point instead of an overtime. And so the game ended at 15-15, both Liquid and Ents being at 3-1-1 um, in that situation. And so they got the pass to essentially move forward into the finals against Astralis. So I thought that was a terrible taste in people's mouth to kind of end it that way and not giving Ents an opportunity to take that into an overtime and actually win that game. I feel like you need to win the game to advance. But with this setup, that would be the most disappointing thing. I think the tournament as a whole was incredible, but that situation sucked for Ents.
It sucks when it comes into situations like this, but I don't necessarily hate the no overtime format that Blast Pro does. Mainly because it helps keep everything on schedule. It helps keep the schedule a little bit more honest, which just is impossible to do in esports, but this helps at least keep it a little bit better. But I also think it also adds more drama to the blowouts that happen early on or close games that happen, right? A 16-14, loss, you can still kind of hang your hat on it and saying, okay, like we took rounds, which is the important part. right? It just adds a little bit more storyline, almost like the home and away goal that they do in soccer, right? It's kind of like, look, you could still lose, but you scored 4 goals while you were away, so it's huge.
It is a valuable storyline because I mean we were talking about it last week with the Dallas Fuel missing a playoff spot because of round differential.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I mean,
And imagine if they didn't do that and they went to some overtime whatever, right? They do still
yeah,
play in matches, but it just I don't hate the having round differentials or things like that decide for ties, I guess. But I'm also in the minority where I don't care about ties. Maybe it's just coming from liking soccer, right? But I don't view ties as like a cop out. I just view it as like that's part of it. That's how you create round differentials with other teams and things like that. We did get to see the major final that we never saw with Astralis and Liquid. Ended up about the way everyone thought, though. Liquid ended up taking Dust 2, 16-13, and then from there, Astralis never looked back. Just in dominating fashion.
It was so impressive because that first loss definitely was an eye opener. They interviewed like Nap and like before the game, or I think in between the first and second map, and man, they were so pumped up after that Dust 2 win. I think it was a map that they didn't necessarily anticipate winning. Um, it's a tough map for them. It's not like their best choice, and they let Inferno through rather than playing them on Nuke, which was really surprising because obviously Astralis is dominant on both maps. However, Nuke is also a good map for Liquid, so that's generally the route they would have taken. They let Inferno go through and really got stomped early on it. But Overpass was that map that Liquid was really dying. I mean, they were excited to play that map. They were amped up. You could tell in the interviews that they were ready to go. They felt confident going into Overpass, and man, did they get steamrolled. I mean, you just saw the power of Astralis there, and it wasn't even.
16 too.
Yeah, you talk about a lackluster
Yeah.
third map. I mean, that was really a blowout. It was one sided.
And I do want to get into this meta talk now then. As far as the patch that came down a couple weeks ago, do you have Spark Notes offhand, Anuj? Tell the
For which one, I'm
listener,
sorry?
just for a little bit of the things that updated in the latest patch for Counter-Strike.
Yeah. So quite, I mean, an interesting change because when we've seen meta changes in Counter-Strike, it's definitely leaning towards weapon balance.
And then
You
let me
don't
tell you, I'm going to cut you off. But because this is why the 16-2 and 16-8 wins for Astralis are so insane to me, because what this patch did, or what it was really to help, was to eliminate eco rounds, right? It was trying to minimize the amount of rounds that a team has to just pretty much take the L, right? Saving up for guns, so you play 3 or 4 rounds in a row with pistols and very little utility and stand very little chance of winning. So you
it
see
eliminates
a lot
like double
closer,
ecos.
right? It's more difficult now in this current meta to have that big of a blowout. So to see a 16-2 is pretty damning.
Yeah, so the way it's always worked in CS essentially is if as you lose rounds progressively, so in a row, as you're losing these rounds, your your loss bonus increases per round. So for example, you lose one round, you get 1900. You lose 2 rounds in a row, next round you get 24, then 29 and 34 and so forth. So as you're losing rounds, they stack up. But if you were to win the following round, and then lose again. So you go loss, right? Until you finally get that win. If you're to lose the following round, it resets that loss bonus all over again. So you're really starting from scratch, and it allows these massive blowout victories that you can see because winning a round is a big detriment if you don't back it up with another win. And so that's how it's always worked in CS. I mean, that's been a foundation piece for how money is worked in CS. This is the first time that I can recall that they've changed this. So what they've done is they've essentially made it a point system for losses. So as you lose, you're accumulating points, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Each one of them has a value in terms of money that you get for the following round associated with it. So if you lose one round in a row, you get this much in the same type of setup. If you win a round, it subtracts off of the point system. So to use again an example, if you lose 4 rounds in a row, that's 3,400. You win a round, you go down to the 3-round loss bonus rather than resetting at that point.
And then
So
so
it
if you
gives
lose,
teams,
then you get the 3-round bonus.
yeah, if you lose
Okay.
that following round, then
Yeah,
you get that
I'm
3-round
following you.
bonus.
I'm
So
following you. I'm following you.
it's
I love it.
basically allowing teams to not go bankrupt in those situations. It's more of a T-sided advantage in terms of, which makes it a disadvantage obviously for CTs. I get that it's not like a one-sided argument, but it helps the T economy more than it helps the CT economy. Thus allowing more exciting games. You don't have those ecos as often. You're still going to have them, or definitely, should not have a double eco. You'll just see teams playing more aggressive, trying to buy more weapons or better weapons, I guess you could say, and eliminating the eco side. Now, it's mixed reviews in terms of how people feel. I personally think it is a good change. That's just a personal preference in the situation, but I think it's better to see teams really. I want to see teams match up with the best of what they can get. I don't want to see a game where every 3 rounds they're all at a full buy and then it's a constant reset and the team is like saving, saving,
Right.
saving. I
Well,
don't I
and
don't like
two,
to
it's
see
like
that.
what I don't like is in Counter Strike, if you lose the initial round, right? Like so round 1 or the first round of the second half, if you lose that, you're pretty much accepting the fact that you're going to have at least 3, maybe even 4 losses, right? It's just very
Well,
difficult.
3 losses was more the norm, and then they updated it to where you started with a 1 round loss bonus. So 2 rounds became the norm. So they were already eliminating that pistol economy, like, spread
Right.
that we saw of a guaranteed almost three
But I'm
rounds
just talking
most of the
traditionally
time.
in Counter Strike, that's how it's been, right? If you lose those
Yeah.
pistol rounds, you're basically forfeiting a
Three
total of
total rounds
yeah.
now to now almost
Right.
0.
But again, though, that's per half, right? So you're really looking
Yeah.
at like 4 or 5 rounds a game,
Yeah.
which is huge. I mean, that's huge when you start looking at some of the how some of these matches go. So I think to now have it to where it's almost plays a little bit more like it it doesn't, but hear me out. It kind of is going to play a little bit more like how they do overtime now, where you just start with 16,000, right? You're going to have teams being able to just buy more often. So you're not going to see. I mean, think of all the times where it's like you saw a comeback happening, but then a team would get stuck in, eco hell and they just kept screwing their own win or loss bonus going on. And, I can't tell you how many times. Like, think of all the old matches that you would have seen differ, right? Like all the old times where it's like Liquid, where they had a huge lead. One team would try coming back, so then you're rocking that loss bonus. You win one. It's almost like teams purposely did it to break your economy.
Yeah, I guess the only thing that I'll miss with this change, and I think it is a good change, like Anush said, is when a team is down like 14-8 or 14-7, right? And you get a win, you break their economy, you get a win, and I guess it's going to kill a lot of comebacks, right? Like we're just not going to see it as much.
It's going to be
like
harder to come back in the sense of if you're down by a lot of rounds and then go on that crazy win streak, you're not necessarily breaking the other team's economy either, right? But what it's trying to do before it gets to that situation is hopefully not have those massive comebacks that's necessarily needed. Again, it's going to be a 50-50 here for a little bit to really see how it plays out. We're not going to learn this from one tournament. I mean, it's going to take a handful of tournaments to really get a good understanding of how this is going to affect the meta long term. I just think I'm personally just happy to see more gun rounds, and that wasn't the only change that they made. I'll go over the other two a little bit quicker because they're not as important, but they did increase the price of the AUG. They're trying to balance that out a little bit. Obviously, they saw
my career's over.
well, they saw the advantage that was taking place there. They increased it by a couple $100. We didn't really notice that affect the usage of the AUG. I think people have now understood how viable and valuable of a weapon that is. So we did see that still purchased a heavy amount in Blast Pro. I didn't notice a drastic change there. The other one is a little bit more interesting in my opinion. They did increase the bullets in the M1A4S, the silenced M4. Or M4A1S, yeah, whatever I said there. They increased it to 25 and increased the magazine size to 25, and then reserve they increased to 75. People ask, "Oh, it's only 5 bullets. Why does that make a
That's
difference?"
huge.
It's big when you talk about being able the ability to, like, spray through smokes, right? When you were using the previous iteration of it, you were hesitant to do that because a little bit of a spray, you're down to 10 bullets. If they push through, you're probably in a lot of trouble at that point, right? You really needed to be more conservative with how you use that weapon. I would personally love to see this weapon, come back into play because you really saw some of the most beautiful looking headshots with this gun,
Oh yeah,
the
it's a
precision
laser.
accuracy. I mean, just
Yeah.
there's something about using that silenced M4
Uh-huh.
that holds a special place. So hopefully, this is an ongoing tweak to that weapon. I don't think this brings it back into play all of a
No.
sudden, but
This
it's
is
a
what
step
I mean,
closer.
I love the fact that they're giving some love to the silenced M4 just because I mean back in the day that's all you would use like in 1.6 and everything.
Yeah,
But I am still going to die on this hill that I do not understand Valve's logic in not letting you just buy one of the guns. Like the fact that you have to select what M4 you want to go in with drives me nuts. Like
yeah.
if you really want to mix up the game, that's what Valve needs to do. Allow the counter terrorists to buy either one of the M4s. Why do I have to pick if I want, a CZ or a Tech 9? Just let me purchase which one I want. Like the
I
fact that
100%
you got to
agree.
go in with an inventory, it's not as big a deal with the pro scene because you know what maps you're going to be playing. But like from a matchmaking standpoint, or even then like mixing up strategies, right? Like teams could say like, okay, guys, we're gonna go in with this. We're gonna go in a little bit more stealthy. We don't want to show up on the radar or whatever. It would add a lot more, I think, to the meta and additional strategies and options if they would just let you buy everything. But people have been saying that since day one of Go.
A little crazy that that's never happened because you're right. If you want to make that a viable weapon again, give people the option to buy it whenever they want to buy it. Because right now, the unsilenced is still a more powerful and common weapon. So you're not going to see it change too much with this, but I do think you'll see people experiment a little bit, um, and then they'll kind of see what they do with it. The other one was really
Yeah.
the price reduction in shotguns. Again, I like that they're trying to make these weapons more viable in the game. By reducing the price, people will be more willing to take chances on more half eco rounds and be able to buy that. Also, by adding penetration, allows them to spam it again, just trying to make it more viable. So those are some of the minor changes. Really, the main one coming to the economy change, and so far, like I said, I like what I see, but this will just be an ongoing
Maybe
thing to see where it's at.
maybe the shotgun change is something that'll get MIBR back in the meta, right? Like I feel like they're really good with shotguns and those kind of like weird buys, right? So maybe that's the change, boys. Maybe they're back. I
I
don't
always
know.
picture people in favelas with shotguns running around in between like narrow
Whoa.
corridors. Picturing a little cod right there.
No, I think part of the issue with MIBR is the fact that everyone's caught up.
Yeah.
Everyone's caught up to the old MIBR, right? Same thing that happened with Fnatic back in the day. Everyone caught up to Fnatic. Astralis, eventually someone will catch up to Astralis. We see Liquid is almost there, but yet they could still, like, their loss is just so heavy at the same time, right? Like, yeah, you took a round off Astralis in the finals, and yeah, you're consistently making the finals against Astralis minus the major, but yet when you still lose to Astralis the way they did, it's just like, whew.
It's like, how close are they really? I mean, it's really a one and then a huge gap between two.
Yeah.
And then like another pretty big gap to 3, 4, and
I
5.
would
And
almost
so
say like Astralis holds 1, 2, and 3, and then Liquid is the fourth
yeah,
best team in
start
the
it
world.
there.
Well,
That's how it is
yeah,
on HLTV.
That's what you
really
need to
is
do.
that how they? I mean, Astralis is they're really good at micromanaging everything in their game, like economy, utility, all that.
Well, and
So
I find it funny.
maybe teams having one less thing to worry about maybe closes that gap a little bit. I don't know.
Well, and I'll say one more thing too, and then we could discuss this a little bit if you want and move on to Overwatch. But I did find it funny. I saw on Twitter, I believe it was Freakazoid, tweeted out saying, like, does anyone know if the Astralis boys play FPL? And Dupree tweeted out saying, no, I'm pretty sure I got kicked from FPL because I don't play it. And I think that is so funny how times have changed. Not that long ago, I remember, like, that was the standard of how committed you are from being pro is, well, the Europeans are just better because they sit there and grind FPL all day, right? Like, that was one of the things that you would hear people say is like, well, the Americans, they just don't have as talented people in FPL, and yet here's the top team in the world where their players aren't even in it if they wanted to play on the servers.
Yeah, I think
ESPN like chats and just
Oh,
like
yeah.
trolling. Like,
Well, I also love
those are miserable people.
like
It's like stupid.
it's like how offended people get over esports still. Like, it's not like they're like, oh, what is this, right? Like, what is this badminton on ABC or whatever, right? It's like they are almost like acting like it is like some satanic void. I saw one woman tweet out that I can't believe ABC is showing this filth. I am not allowing my children to watch this so they don't get any ideas.
I'm just allowing them to play it.
Yeah, right. Right. I'm going to let them watch Twitch and everything, but seeing it in a professional manner
off a building or something, or
it's just
it's so cartoony.
I don't know, man. It just goes to show that when esports breaks into the traditional sporting world, how far we as an industry still have to go. You know, and I want to start using the word industry. I know the hot topic word is always scene, right? Oh, look at the esports scene or whatever. But I truly do feel like at this point in the game, esports is an industry, and it just goes to show how long, like, yeah, for us it's huge and for us it's super popular, but you still see it on, and I know it's the majority few, you know, it's that are the most vocal, but it just goes to show that there are still people out there who are just ignorant on the topic.
They're also anti-vaxxers, probably. That's a topic for another episode.
Yeah,
It's like bringing that up, and it's like for those, it's like bringing up an anti-vax commercial on TV. That's the reaction people are having towards esports on TV.
Yeah, it's just I don't know. But typically at the same time, if you go on the feed of someone who is talking, you know, smack about esports on TV and freaking out like it was the end of times, they're typically talking about that about everything. So I don't know how personal you want to take it. But besides that, it was a good Stage 1 finals, but that's not really what I'm excited about because Overwatch had its own overhaul of patches coming up in the last week. And the reason Blizzard did it so soon is so they could get the new hero out there in Baptiste and get it ready for Stage 2, which starts up here in about a week. So we are going to see this patch take effect in the pro scene for Stage 2. And this is supposedly going to be the death of GOATs. Even Blizzard or Overwatch tweeted out kind of a tongue-in-cheek of like, it's finally over. And everyone kind of figured that they were talking about GOATs. Even like Overwatch is realizing like, yes, this needed to change. So quickly, I just want to go over some of the big patch notes that we get to look forward to and how we think it's going to affect the pro scene. And I'll get why I say pro scene and not comp in a second. So Baptiste is the new hero coming out. I'm not going to fill you in on what he does. You should already know. But if you don't, he is a support. He's a little bit more of a damage-friendly support. Plays very different. Plays a little bit more like a DPS that can also heal. The reason I think this is huge for the pro scene is you have players like Zachary on the Dallas Fuel who are very vocal, and a lot of them are very vocal against Brigitte and how much they despise her. She was kind of the anchor when it came to GOATs. She ran with the tanks in a GOATs meta, keeping them alive and basically dominating anything that came in her path if the meta was played correctly. But the issue is it also took away a lot of the skill play. You know, to Anuja's point, I know you always bring up, like, it's great and all, but people like seeing headshots. Baptiste will be able to get headshots, so I think that will help alter it a little bit.
Do you think it completely changes it, or it's just like going to be more experimental to begin with, but we'll see the GOATS meta still stand strong?
Well, I mean, I think it's gonna. I think it's definitely gonna change. I don't think you're gonna see Overwatch at a pro scene being played the same way in Stage 2 that it is in Stage 1 because, and Tim will go over the changes here in a minute, the more important ones. But I feel like the changes they did make, they didn't really affect Brigitte. They are going to affect Brigitte, but they kind of nerfed her without nerfing her. They buffed certain heroes that are going to maybe not render her useless, but not make her as viable.
Well, and that's one thing that I like that they did. I felt like they really did a good job this time around with the patch. Is I always hate to see when a character gets reworked or nerfed into oblivion for them being too effective. It seems like Blizzard did a really good job of bringing other heroes up to her level, kind of like to where it's like, look, you can play these other guys and
Well, I mean, some of the characters, and Tim can get to this in a minute, were buffed in this patch. A few DPS players, I feel, got a really positive boost there. But Tim was talking about damage over time effects. Ashe, being, she has her dynamite, but she also can melt you with her the aiming down sights. I forget what they call it.
aiming down sights is fine.
There we go. Whatever. But there's a buff there, but also means. But they also increased damage on Soldier. I saw one Overwatch player, I forget who it was. I think it was Sinatra. He was saying 76 back ? Like,
well,
maybe?
They also increased Soldier's damage. They increased his damage from 19 to 20, which doesn't seem like much, but when you think of how many bullets are in the clip, it does. It adds up. You have Pharah's explosive damage, so her splash damage increased, which is going to help that. That's what I think is you're going to see all these little heroes. McCree's Fan the Hammer was nerfed, yet his Deadeye was buffed, which is going to be huge for McCree because since day one, his ulti was only good for zoning players out of areas. It was never really used as a primary source to kill people. Like, let's be real. Yeah. That thing took... If you died from McCree's ulti, like, that is your own damn fault because you had about 30 seconds to get out of the way.
It needed a change, and especially in today's Overwatch, where I feel like a lot of team fights are kind of won by ultimates, he could be useful. And in the current state of Overwatch, I mean, but his Fan the Hammer needed it. It was comical. I mean, you could watch Taimu use it, and all he did was Fan the Hammer in matches, and it's just like, oh my god, this is not what you want your hit scan character to be.
Junkrat, his impact damage increased from 40 to 50. Again, doesn't seem like a lot, but when you think of him just raining down his grenades on, a shield, like that's going to melt. He was already a go-to shield melter who's been kind of out of the pro meta for all of Stage 1. So he hasn't really been there since Stage
2 of last year.
Yeah.
Last season.
So you're going to see him picked up a little bit. Doomfist, his cooldowns were reduced for both Seismic Slam and Rising Uppercut, which is huge for him because he gains armor based off the damage he does on his special abilities.
And if you think about it, I mean, that's nearly a 20% decrease in the time it takes for that ability to come back, which is huge because, I mean, Overwatch is a fast-paced game. There are a lot of scenarios where I was like, 1 second away from a Lucio E to heal up my team, and that fight could have lasted longer. So to reduce it that much is huge.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, I feel like there's a theme. Like they want more, and the players, fans, watchers like Anuj, they want to see DPS players, and I feel like that's what they're trying to do with this patch.
Zenyatta orbs have increased damage. They increased his direct damage. They've minimized the splash damage for Zarya's right click, her orbs that she fires, so that's nerfing a tank a little bit.
Mhm.
I hope to see Moira more in play with her increased healing. Like, I mean, I don't know if that sure. Seems like they increased it quite a bit. I mean, it was almost a 25% increase from where she was at. And so it's a character I enjoy playing personally, so I kind of hope to see her a little bit more active.
Her ulti got a little bit of a nerf because technically that's beam damage. But yeah, you're probably maybe even gonna see her as a pick over. They keep doing this to my boy. He's part of the meta. He's not part of the meta. Now he's like picked all the time in Lucio. Like maybe she's gonna be a pick over him now that he's nerfed.
I will correct you on one thing though. So her biotic orb though is damage over time.
Yeah, but her coalescence,
but
her coalescence and her left click.
Right. Yeah. All I'm saying. I don't really know what dictates damage over time and beam weapons in Blizzard's eyes. I'm going off of what the patch notes are saying. I'm not going to argue like why. I mean, I agree with you. It all seems like damage over time to me, but whatever. That's what Blizzard tells me. So that's what I think, Anuj. I don't think it is one. Like I said, like there wasn't like in this patch, there wasn't one thing that you were like, whoa, no way, this character is going to be so overpowered. It's in this situation, this character is going to be more useful. I would still like to see updates to Reaper. All they did was reduce the damage or the healing received from damage. I hear that they're going to patch it to where he's also invulnerable while teleporting. Because that's the most useless ability in the game, because all it does is set up a clean headshot for anyone who sees you. In my opinion, they need to do it where you can teleport while moving. That needs to happen, because by the time I even teleport somewhere, someone can run up and get to where I'm at anyways. It doesn't really help anything. Sombra's cooldown was reduced while hacking a health pack. I think that will be helpful for her. So like I said, it's not like one thing that is just going to kill goats. I think you're still going to see goats used on certain maps. I don't think that they're going to completely get away from it, because they've just learned that, hey, this character is a lot more useful when a pro Widow can't one-shot me all the time.
Yeah.
I will say... Oh, go ahead.
It's definitely, like, more to your point, Tim. It's not going to kill goats, because there's going to be...
I have all these different heroes that can play to all certain play styles. It always annoys me that teams just gravitate to the cookie cutter meta. I wish teams would get a little bit more out of the comfort zone and figure out their own.
It would really be the first time since Overwatch was just all you could really play. It would be the first time that would happen since Overwatch went to the one hero per, team. You could select one hero per team. We haven't really seen that since Overwatch League. It's always been a cookie cutter. You run dive, I'm gonna run dive. You run goats, I'm gonna run goats. It's always been like that. But that would be great if, like in other sports, you're playing to your strengths, the other team's playing to their strengths.
You have a run game, they have a passing game, and we'll see
go.
who wins who. So we'll see. So that's all very exciting for the pro scene. For us simpletons playing pickups, still don't see a queue. Don't see any type of queuing for comp or anything. It's still pretty like all these changes are great, and it's cool to have a new support, but if 4 of my teammates all pick DPS, it doesn't really matter. So I still think for the layman's in Overwatch, Blizzard still has to look at that.
Yeah, I did get yelled at for picking Brigitte the other day. I thought that was kind of odd. It's like a unicorn, right?
Yeah.
It's like
no.
Wow.
Normally I was like, okay.
Oh, I mean, sure. Okay.
So I don't know. That's my take on it, but I'm not here to talk about pugs in Overwatch because that's just beating a dead horse. So either way, stage 2 I think starts up next week. Let me look at a calendar. No, in 2 weeks. Well, I guess next week. Whatever. Look it up. In 2 weekends it
Google.
starts. So that'll be interesting to see, to say the least. I'm putting in my headphones here. Give me one moment, please. All right. I can't hear the e-news better if I do it. Let's get some e-news, shall we? What's going on here? With CSGO, nothing parts ways with Complexity. This was a move that we all knew was going to eventually happen. He was on loan with them, just kind of doing the one more victory lap around the CSGO scene. I don't know if we will ever see him again as far as a permanent roster. I think he'll maybe always just play this fill-in role, but maybe this gave him the itch. I don't know.
Maybe it just like maybe he just wants to go the way of Shroud, right? And just all right, it's time to start thinking about the next stage of my life, building a community and just get it rain.
Well, and they also picked up Sick, who has been a great young player. Like he was really good on TSM. He's had, I believe he was on Rogue before that as well. But he's a player that I think deserves a chance on a team of this caliber, and it's going to be exciting to see him in there.
Big moves here for our local Envy team. Well, Complexity is local too. A lot of local moves. Just realized that. Envy ended up adding Fugly, Android, and is it Sum? How do you say his name?
Some.
Some, right? Okay. So they ended up adding them. Drone and Cutler are no longer on the team. Very interesting. Now it kind of sucks. They ended up failing qualifying for DreamHack Dallas, which them and Complexity ended up failing qualifying, and I think that's officially out. Now it does suck because they both ended up playing each other in the losers bracket. So it's like, well, damn, one of these is going to go. But again, they had zero practice going in. I do think this is a better roster than what they had. It's nice to see them making moves with what is available in the NA scene. So we'll see what happens with Envy as they're in their next tournament. I don't know. That might be some pro league coming up. I have no idea.
Yeah.
And Vice is on trial with Cloud9 to replace Flusha. Meh.
Yeah. Like, okay, so he's hopefully a big upgrade from Zealous then, and I don't know if that's really like going to be the case here. He's coming from Rogue. He's played really well, so I mean, I guess it's going to be exciting. I think the main focus here that people should take away is they really needed the Asian persuasion. They missed that combo of Stewie and Automatic, and this is the fix.
This is
so
replacing
if you can't get
it.
Stewie, this is the next best thing.
You'll get the next best Asian guy. Wow.
Tim was at his peak then, so they're bringing in the big guns right now.
Wow.
In Overwatch, we talked about last week how they announced that every team by 2020 or in 2020 will be playing home games. And so Fusion was the first team to break the ice as the Philadelphia Fusion announced their stadium plans to be a $50 million stadium in the sports district of Philadelphia, right near where all the other sports teams play. So right there, I don't know if it's in the heart of downtown, but it's, not like off in the boonies. They put it in a meaningful spot.
Yeah, right next to the Rocky statue.
Yeah, and this is legit. Like you go see the plans, it's going to be their HQ. It can seat up to 3,500. It's kind of like a concert hall, though, right? It's not. I would love to have seen the circle where the players play in the middle and people surround them, but it's not. It's whatever. It's still a super nice stadium. I'd love to see what other teams are planning.
And it's kind of the perfect size because the worst that you could do is be overzealous, right? And just like put in a 10 or 15,000 seat stadium and then it doesn't fill and then it just looks bad. I feel like 3,500 people it's cozy, but it's big enough to be like, man, okay,
so
this is pretty legit.
I have opinion on that.
Okay.
I also don't think it's not ambitious enough for me. I want to see a little bit more than 3,500. I want to see a little, because you're putting 50 million. Okay, so you're putting 50 million into a stadium for a team you already spent 20 million on just to get in the league, right? I would like to see a little bit more future proofing going into these stadiums than 3,500.
It looks like 20 million of that went in the LEDs for the stadium.
I know, right? Like
very bright
you see the
stadium.
concept, and you're like, damn, okay.
I mean, 3,500 would still be a pretty damn good crowd to fill up on a week-to-week basis, though.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're thinking long-term, like, I don't think with these types of just games in general, forget Overwatch or anything, that you started to think, okay, is this like a 10-year game? Like, is that how we're going to look at this? Or, I mean, they have to be a little cautious in that sense because you generally don't see that kind of longevity. It's just so rare.
Yeah.
So maybe there is a little bit of hesitation to be like, okay, let's go 10,000 deep. Well, 2 years from now, if the game is dying, it's going to look real bad. You know, at least 3,500 seems like a manageable number. Still going to look good in terms of crowd noise. So
you can still hold high school graduations there.
At the end of the day, that's what we need more of.
more spots for high school.
I guess that's the other thing too, is like, okay, are they planning on doing this multi-purpose? It's like, how many seat at the Verizon Center here in Grand Prairie? Like for the ESL finals, how many people do you think are there?
I think it was like 5,000.
5,000?
Yeah.
So I don't know.
But
we'll
you got to
see.
think they use that year round. That gets used every
Well,
single
it's for
weekend.
concert, and I guess that's the other thing too. Is like, are these, when you're seeing like Envy, right? We've talked to Envy a lot, and they haven't given too many details, but I think all signs point to that they are going to do their own arena eventually, whether it be next year or not. I don't know, but they do want to do their own arena. It's like, are we looking at making this a multi-purpose arena? Are you looking at hosting esports major tournaments, not necessarily Counter-Strike majors, or are we as a org kind of bowing out saying, no, this is for our Overwatch League team and maybe some other things for us. We're going to leave Cowboy Stadium for the majors. Like, we're never going to compete taking the big events. We're going to leave that to the established arenas of 30,000. So it's been working so far. So why try to build an esports stadium with 30,000 to maybe possibly win one Counter-Strike major or whatever, right? So I don't know. It'll be kind of interesting to see how all the other teams take it. Also, like teams like with Seoul Dynasty in Korea, where esports has been widely accepted, it will be kind of cool. In other news, you have Smash Melee. Zane ended up defeating SFAT in Full Bloom for Melee. And still do not know when Halo is going to be released. 343 and Microsoft are keeping it very close to the belt. They have not made any type of hints that it's going to be released anytime soon.
And if you're looking for our thoughts on that, we did post a video on our YouTube that dove into that, about Halo and just kind of going into some of the, our thoughts and theories behind it. You can go check that out on our YouTube page.
Yeah. So definitely check out on our YouTube. You can find that link somewhere on our Twitter, also through our website. tcr.gg has a link to YouTube where we're adding a little bit more videos here and there for things we just don't have time to get to on our full podcast. So good times will be had by all. Just like this was a good time. Hopefully had by all. It was a good time for me. That's for sure. Episode 150.
49.
50.
I changed it earlier and then it got changed again, so somebody bumped it up.
Episode's a lie. Oh my god.
Yeah, it's episode 149.
According to the official podcast feed on Audio Stack, which is our hosting company, it's 150.
They don't know anything. What do they know? But I haven't talked to them since we signed up.
So it's episode something. It's either 149 or 150, and we'll only settle this after we record so we can go look at it. But if you, a listener, really want to prove, just go through our feed and count one by one. And let us know what you get to.
Hit play on all of them while you're going by them.
What if I accidentally miscounted like way back at like episode 23? Just always like an episode behind. That'd be great.
Fake milestones.
Oh boy, but I do love you, the listener. Go ahead and follow us on Twitter at The Center Ring. We will be back next week talking some more esports stuff. What are we talking about? I don't know. We'll figure that out. But it's going to be good. For Anuj, for Britt, I'm Tim. We'll see ya. Cool. All right. I'm going to end the stream. Zen, thank you for watching. Deshaun, Joey, thank you for watching.
Fortunately, Twitch dropped out on us right at
That
the
was
beginning.
just Twitch, though. That was Twitch overall.
Yeah.
I was wondering, too, because it like... I'm going to end the stream.